Hey guys, it's Rich back at you for another video. In today's video, it's going to be a review of the latest episode of the Bad Batch. That's Bad Batch episode 3, which is literally the title of the episode, is just episode 3. So yeah, so there are two storylines in this episode. There's one about the actual Bad Batch crew, the other about the Imperial side of the story. And I have to say, the Imperial story was much more interesting than the Bad Batch story. I think that was deliberate though. I don't think the Bad Batch story was poor. I just think it was more filler. This episode did feel more like a filler episode, but it also was used to develop Crosshair's character in specific, and also the Empire's intentions a bit more. Now, there's some interesting setups with the Imperial plotline, but we'll talk about that more in detail later, because we need to talk about the actual Bad Batch. So, in this episode, the crew, they crash land on this planet, and they need to fix the engine and stuff, and the part gets stolen by this little wolf thing, so they have to go fetch it, and Hunter goes, and of course Omega comes with him. And that's one of my main problems with this episode, is that in the first two episodes, Omega's character was done very well. In this episode, she feels very forced. Like, she comes with him, he gets injured, she saves the day. Like, it's very basic stuff. Not a good storyline, a very simple storyline. They could have been much more experimental with this, gone for something different than a generic story, but it's up to them, I guess. But yeah, so that storyline just felt very weak, and as usual, Echo, his character is very lackluster, which is really annoying, because there's the most potential for Echo, because there's so much potential for what they could do with him, and they just don't use it. He sort of just sits around and doesn't really do anything. But even though he's not that good, the other characters are pretty good, and the Imperial side is very interesting. So Crosshair gets his Imperial squad, which you can see in the trailer. These guys, his Imperial squad, and they are Regs, so it's 4 Regs and Crosshair, but he shoots one of the Regs for disobeying orders, which is really interesting. They're not actually Regs, they're prescription soldiers, which means they're like stormtroopers, the first generation, and I eventually think that Crosshair squad will evolve into Death Troopers, but I'm going to do a video on that soon. But yeah, so we got Crosshair squad, which is pretty interesting, a nice setup, how he's sort of cold-hearted, he just cares about the mission, and he sent the same mission that the Bad Batch was sent to do in episode 1, and of course he complies, so civilians are wiped out. Of course Saw, he's off planet, so he escapes. Now, the setup I was talking about earlier is basically, they talk about, the Kaminoans, they talk about I think there's some sort of rebellions happening, because they don't seem to agree with the Empire, and the Empire want to end the cloning line, whereas these guys, they're kind of like, oh, we're doing our own thing, just leave us be. So the Empire seems to disagree with that. But the setup is that basically they say, if we make a super clone, we might be able to impress them, which is pretty smart, I guess. So what they want to do is they want to be able to impress the Empire somehow with this super clone, but they're going to clone it off an existing clone, and they say, oh, we might struggle to get him, and they're like, he's Kaminoan property, so we can bring him in, which means it could be Rex. First of all, just because struggle to get him. Why? Because he's he left the army. But the one problem is that it wouldn't fit to be Rex, because he's presumed dead at this point, remember? So another clone it could be is Cody, which I don't know why they would struggle to get him, but they could get him. Gregor, because they could struggle to get him, so that makes sense. And Wolfie. But yeah, but I'm going to make a separate video on this, so I'll talk about that in that video. But yeah, that's the review. All in all, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I think it's not quite as good as the other 2 episodes, but it's still very good. And that's going to wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.